Today we'll be talking about early marriage as a tool for disempowerment. You might think that, oh, it's normal. After all, men like younger women, they want her for her youth. The truth remains that it is not necessarily about her youth or her beauty or her virality or her fertility or maybe her sexual purity. We're going to talk about all of this today. Hello, welcome to Beta Feminist Podcast, the podcast where we talk about feminist issues from the perspective of an African woman living in Africa. I am your resident Beta Feminist host, Ijoma. There is a reason men go for young women. You see a man that is 35, 40, ready to get married. He doesn't go for age-appropriate women. He doesn't go for his age mates. He doesn't go for maybe a 40-year-old man rarely goes for a 40-year-old woman. They don't even go for a 30-year-old woman. Some go for 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and marry them. I know this might not sit well with some people. By some people, I mean men and women who got married early, because anytime this topic is raised on Facebook, on Twitter, on any other social media platform, you will see men trying to defend early marriage and women who probably got married early trying to say how it's the best thing that happened to them. I'm so grateful I got married early. My husband is the best thing that happened to me. They might be lying, they might be truthful, but the truth remains, the universal truth is that in Nigeria, in the Western world, early marriage is a tool for disempowerment. The reason why men go for women of a certain age, go for young women, they believe that their eye never tear. It's not because they will say, women that are age mates, women you want us to marry, they don't use them finish. It's not because of that. If you bring a 30-year-old woman that has had 10 sexual partners and a 20-year-old woman that has had 10 sexual partners, most men will go for the 20-year-old. Why? It is because of malleability. It is easier to manipulate or mold a young girl to be whatever you want her to be when she's younger. When a girl is young, when a girl is small, a small girl, teenage girls, it is quite easy to manipulate them. It is quite easy to bend them to your will. It is quite easy to push them to do what you want them to do. They are more malleable. There's a certain wisdom that comes when women get older. It's like the older they get, the wiser they become. They become less susceptible to emotional blackmail. But young girls don't know this. There are things young girls do not know. And men prey on this weakness of theirs and turn them into what they want them to be. There's also the aspect of financial dependence. These younger girls are way easier to manipulate because they lack the experience, they lack the fortitude, and they lack the financial ability to walk away. So it's like taking candy from a baby. And in this case, these women are babies, like taking candy from a baby because they believe everything you say. When you tell a young girl, oh, I love you, I want to marry you, let's have sex. You can use I love you, I want to marry you, this, that, to manipulate a younger girl into having sex with you. You cannot do that with a 30, 35-year-old woman who has seen it all. She has seen everything. So the main reason men go for these younger women is because of control. Because they are more malleable, because it is easier to manipulate them, because they are babies. An 18-year-old girl has nothing when it comes to finances. She lives on the benevolence of her parents. It's what your parents give you that you have. When I was 18, I think my pocket money then was 10,000 naira. If that 10,000 naira finishes, Otilo, I'm on my own. Now I can take care of myself. 10,000 naira is not what I exist on in a month. Men take advantage of financial dependence in younger women because they know that if you're going for a younger girl, you can use money to manipulate her. You can use things you can buy with money to manipulate her. For a younger woman, when I was in the university, you can get her with Blackberry Bold, and Blackberry Bold then was 25,000 naira. A lot of young girls would lick your feet for Blackberry Bold. We're not even talking of Blackberry Touch that was maybe around 150,000 naira then. We're talking of Blackberry Bold, Blackberry Curve that was draining then 25, 28, 30,000 naira. That was all a man needed to get an undergraduate, to be his slave, not just sexual slave, like a literal slave. Clean your house, suck your dick, wash your clothes, do everything for you, iron it because of Blackberry Bold of 30k. That is what men check when they move to these young girls because they are looking at you. If I give this girl 20,000 naira now, she will call me daddy. But look at this 30-year-old woman. What will 20,000 naira do for her? Will you even fend for her for 1 week? And then They move to where they feel they can get more control with the smallest amount of financial input. If I know that if I give this woman 50,000 naira, she will worship me till at least for 1 year. And if I give a working class woman 50,000 naira, she'll be like, yeah, thanks, babe, that's nice. Who do you think I'm going to move to? So these are the reasons men move to younger girls. Not necessarily because of age. It's more about control, manipulation, malleability, the person that you can control, not just mentally, but financially. When I was doing my master's, I had this classmate, this coursemate. Her husband gives her 500 naira every day. 500 naira every day. And when they fight, he doesn't give her any money. So imagine having to save from 500 naira every day, so that in case when you people fight, you can be able to come to school. That is what we call financial dependence. This is why they go for women like that. And then the final reason is grooming. When you get girls like this from a very young age, it is hard for them to leave. Groomed girls, and the thing there is a lot of women don't like acknowledging that they are groomed. It's something that they feel ashamed of, and I understand why. But ladies who were groomed, they find it difficult to leave. You can abuse them now, abuse them 10 years later, they will still be there because it's a part of who they are. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, they know this is a bad situation, but they can't leave because they entered into it early. So it's very hard to leave. Yes, they want to. They know it's the right thing to do. They read posts. They know that the best thing to do is to separate myself from this situation, but they can't. And men take advantage of it because it's that mantra, catch them young. When you catch them young, it's difficult for them to leave. This is why men go for younger girls. Malleability, financial dependence, and the grooming. They know that once I get this girl when she's young, it's over. A lot of women that married very early, they seldom leave abusive relationships. It is way harder for groomed women to exit a toxic relationship. No matter how it devolves into toxicity and abuse, they will still be there. It's the ride and die thing that they believe, the ride and die culture we've been taught to believe. As a young woman, when you enjoy male attention, when men come for you, older men come to you, you should be careful. And I know that older women say this a lot. And when older women say it, younger women think it's a we versus them situation, and they start flipping out. They call the older women bitter. They say that you're doing this because no man wants to marry you, blah, 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 blah. It is not that. There is a truth to what they are saying. Now, let's go to another reason why men go for young women. There are men who exclusively date very young girls. I'm talking about barely legal girls that just escaped 18, 19-year-old girls. Celebs like Leonardo DiCaprio, they said once you turn 25, he dumps you. Then I remember when it trended that Timini was, I think some of his exes came out to call him out. He strictly dates 18, 19, 20-year-olds. I think 19 being the oldest. He doesn't date women above that age. And not just celebs, I'm talking of the average man, the welder on your street, the carpenter on your street, a blue-collar job guy, white-collar job guy. It is a thing. There are men who exclusively, when I say exclusively, it means that they don't even deviate from it. They don't even say, okay, let me date a 30-year-old, let me date a 28-year-old. They just go for young women. Why do men in their 30s, 40s, 50s go after young girls that just turned 18, 19, 20? Let me say it again. So they can manipulate and control them emotionally, financially, sexually, and otherwise. Something he cannot do with women his age. At the end of the relationship, he leaves when he wants, with no skin pain. The young girl has to deal with a truckload of trauma and emotional scars. It's not even about the age difference per se. Like I'll always say this, it is not just about age difference. It's the fact that even though an 18-year-old girl is physically an adult, she isn't mentally or emotionally there yet. It takes a lot. It's not just, when the clock moves from 17 to 18, you're automatically an adult. You now have all the experiences of an adult. No, it takes more than age, a certain number, for you to become an adult. When we talk about this, people will come out and say, but you people, the society accepts sugar daddy. A 70-year-old man can date 28-year-old girls. A 70-year-old can date 24-year-old. But that is different. If a 70-year-old man dates a 20-year-old woman, it's not a big deal as when a 34-year-old man consistently goes for 18 or 19-year-old girls. It's not the same thing. They are not the same thing. The age difference for the 70-28 might be more. But at 28 years old, that person is a full-fledged adult. That is why I said that it's not about the age difference, because 70 minus 28 is 42 years. That's a wide age gap. 34 minus 19 is how many years? The problem here is not the age difference. A 28-year-old woman can hold her own. She is emotionally and psychologically ready. It will be almost impossible to groom a woman that age. Whereas an 18-year-old, 19-year-old dating a 30-year-old man, there's a small wahala there, even though that the age gap is not that much. There's a small problem there because that 18-year-old does not have the emotional maturity she requires to be in a relationship with somebody that old. These girls may have adult bodies, but they have the minds and the characters and the emotional range of children. Their introduction into the dating world shouldn't be with men almost twice their age who would end up abusing them, leaving them with unnecessary baggage, or messing up their life when they get married. So it brings us to the question, knowing all this, why do women still go ahead to marry men that are way older than them? Knowing all this, why do women give their daughters out to men that are way older than them? Women are naturally resilient. They expect you, if your mothers could cope, you too, you can cope. It's not a big deal. But there is this disenfranchisement that comes with getting married at a young age. I have had a lot of classmates finish, they got married when they were young, when they were in the university, and that was the end of it. They are graduates quite alright, but that's it. No business, no job, no nothing. They are just out in their homes pumping out babies. If this were a grown woman or a woman of a certain age, she would know that, I don't want this. I want my career. I was working before he met me. But young girls don't have that eye. Their eye never tear, which is why men go for them. I have so many classmates, some that I even did my master's with. Until today, they are not working. The one I talked about, that her husband gives 500 naira a day. She works at a school that pays her 10,000 naira, and she's doing masters, and her husband is sponsoring that masters. When she's done with the masters, I think she's currently done, she's still in the house pumping out babies with a master's degree. This is what happens when they catch these women young. Early marriage is a tool for disenfranchisement, for disempowerment. It works out for a very few women, but those women are not the template, neither are they the majority. Most women, their life grounded to a halt the minute they got married, and because they married at a young age, they do not have the mouth, the power to come out and talk. So this is the reason why it looks like younger women are always fighting older women when they tell them, okay, wait a little bit till you get married. My aunt got married. She was working in Intel, a very one of the top people there. She got married, and the husband was like, stop, and she had to stop. Imagine young girls that did not even have any job to begin with. They'll tell you, don't worry, sit down, I'll open shop for you. And because girls that age are very easy, we've been saying this, it's easier for you to manipulate them. It's easier for you to beat them down. Respect still food their body. They never see what, and they are very optimistic. They're not as cynical as normal you and me that have seen the world. So they will believe, my husband says once I give birth to this one, he'll start a job for me, and like that she'll stay 10 years in the house. And what that succeeds in doing is financially disempowering that person and making sure she doesn't leave. This is why you see on Dear OV, and you see, my husband is a good man, he provides for the family, but he's cheating. What do I do? They can't confront the man. They can't talk to him anyhow, because by the mere fact that he's the sole provider and they depend on him 100% has removed every chances of them doing the confrontation. Men know what they do when they make themselves the primary providers, and they complain about it and be like, I'm the only one doing this, but they enjoy it, because with that comes a wide range of freedom for them. They can fuck any woman they want, they can treat their wives anyhow, and then they know their wives cannot do anything, they cannot leave, because he provides. This is why we keep on telling women, young women, not to be in a rush to marry, because early marriage is a tool for disempowerment. I first had I think I've told the story before, but I had my first serious suitor when I was 16. The first person who seriously wanted to marry me when I was 16. I think I finished my WAEC then. I was a Jambite. We went to priestly ordination at the Cathedral of Good Shepherd, Enugu. Myself, my mom, my entire church, because they were ordaining our priest that day. All the ordinands under Enugu diocese were ordained that day. Many of them, the entire Anglican diocese was there. So, as we were walking to bring the cooler for our church, I saw this priest dressed in his full regalia. He wasn't one of the ordinands. He's like a real priest, like he has been ordained fully. This man looked like he was in his 40s. He had this intimidating mustache, not a full beard, a mustache that was like on his face. He looked like he was in his 40s. Like the age difference between him and my mom no good plenty. So I greeted him and passed, and he said, oh, he had been watching me. Note that he didn't know me from anywhere before. That place was our first place of meeting. He said he had been watching me and he likes me and he would like to marry me, just like that. I didn't know what to tell him. Yes, everybody knows Anglican priests can get married, but I didn't know what to tell him because, first of all, I was just meeting this man for the first time. Second of all, he was way older than me. I didn't reply him. Normally, I would have, ran my mouth. I'm like, what do you mean? Get out. But this was a priest. Did you come here with any family member? I said, yes, I came with my mom. He said, okay, he wants to see my mom. I took him to my mother and he greeted my mother and then told my mom exactly what he told me. And again, this was not happening in a rural environment or in a rural setting. It was happening in an urban environment, in Enugu town, in city. I wasn't dressed poorly or shabbily. I was dressed okay. And even though I have, a mature face, I was still a baby. I barely had breasts when I was 16. You could tell that I was very young. The man knew I was very young, but he didn't seem to mind. Now, my mom said, don't mind my daughter. It's because she's very tall. She's just 16, going to 17. And she just finished her secondary school. Her work is not even out. All these things. She just grows like a Okuka Greek. And the man says, yes, he knows. That's why he wants to marry me. That he will train me in university. And mom nearly lost her shit that day. Because, like me, she was a very big advocate for getting married when you have something doing. She hates it when men, pick girls, young girls, and then marry them. I think she held herself so much that day because this was a priest. And our parents have this reservations and respect they give to priests. On her way home, she was so angry. She told the man there and then, my child will not get married till she's done with her university, done with postgraduate even, blah, 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 blah. She was so pissed. Assuming I married this man now at that age, at 16-year-old, I would be bringing nothing to the table. Absolutely nothing. And that would make me very vulnerable to financial, emotional abuse. I would be bringing nothing. And there were some of my classmates that got married immediately they finished secondary school. And I wonder how they coped. Because these people, these ladies, these young girls were bringing absolutely nothing financially to the table. Highest, your parents will send you to your husband's house with a mortar, a pestle, a deep freezer, depending on how financially okay they were. But what would you be doing? How are you going to eat? You'll be depending 100% on the benevolence of a man. A man who, if he gets angry tomorrow, can decide to withhold the 1,000 naira he's giving you or the 500 naira he's giving you. And that is how women are disenfranchised from a young age. It's a cycle that keeps on repeating itself, and we refuse to tell ourselves the truth. When you tell young girls, see, don't do this, wait till you get to a certain age, wait till you get to 23, 24, wait till it looks like, oh, you're the big bad witch that doesn't want them to have love and everything. But there's a difference. It's different if you're dating this man, maybe for material things, or if you're just having fun. But women actually get married at that age. Women actually give out their daughters in marriage at that age, knowing all this, knowing that they are going into nothing, knowing that if anything happens, these girls would be desolate. That it worked for one random person on Instagram doesn't mean it would work for you. At 16, which work you they do? At 17, 18, 19, how much are you making? You would be 100% dependent on the man, and that would expose you to a lot of abuse. Marriage can always wait. Nobody's saying you should marry when you're 35 or anything, but as a student, if you're listening to this as a student, if you're listening to this as somebody in her early 20s, marriage can wait. The last thing I want to talk about is your self-realization and everything can hit you when you're married, and it will cause a lot of problems for you. There are women who come into their feminist power or who realize or discover feminism when they are 10 years into marriage, 5 years into marriage, 8, 15, 20, and then it becomes a problem trying to put what you've learned into practice, trying to get your partner, your husband to see, I want to walk. And that is where wahala starts. Because this man will be like, you changed since you entered Facebook, since you started reading these things, you changed. And if this happens to you when you're in a relationship, you can move it a little bit to your favor. But when it happens when you're already in a marriage with kids, it's very difficult for you to come and start putting those things you've learned into practice. To come and now start telling your patriarchal husband, whom you've aided his patriarchy, that CEO, what the fuck are you saying? To come and now tell your husband that you and him agree that you are not going to work. CEO, I want to now work. It will look like you're revolting. It will look like you suddenly got some bad ideas from some friends and you're now trying to ruin your marriage. One of the things I'm grateful for is coming into self-realization as a feminist while single, and also at a very young age. And it excites me when I see self-aware single ladies too, because it is a lot of work to do this when you're much older and when you're married. It is a lot of work. It's that thing they say that you don't learn how to use your left hand in old age. Because at this point, you're not just trying to work on yourself, you're trying to work on the man, on your kids, on the whole family, on his family too. Another disadvantage of getting married early, there is little room for growth. There is very little room for growth. No changes. You can't suddenly become a feminist. You can't suddenly start questioning the ideals, that were the foundation of your marriage. If your husband is the type that when you serve him, because there are women like that now, when they want to serve their husbands, they carry the bowl for him to wash his hands as the oga that he is now. Something you don't even do in restaurants. They'll bring the bowl and give him. He wash his hands. Then you bring the food. You eat. You clear the table. Let's assume that you get older and you're like, Mama, this is hard work. If you stop it, just that tiny singular act of maybe holding it for him to wash his hands, maybe because your waist don't pain you, or because you have other things to do, stopping that thing, just stopping that practice, it's war. You've declared war. We're not even talking of stopping cooking or just that tiny thing. There are women who do it and they still do it today. Men will notice, oh, you used to wash my boxers. What happened? There is little room for growth. So even if there is something that you've learned and you don't want to do it anymore, it would be such a hard work stopping it. If you learn that, men can also help in the kitchen, but you started your marriage at that young age, cooking for your man, slaving, waking up by 3 a.m. to cook make eba and soup for him because he wants it. And then 5 years later, you learn these things on Facebook. You find out that, it's not supposed to be like this. It's not supposed to be slavery. Nobody is meant to be waking up another person by 3 for them to go and cook when there is food in the freezer. And then one day you decide, okay, Oga, please don't wake me up. Or he wakes you up and you don't go out to cook. It is a problem. That singular act is enough to lead to the breakdown of that marriage. So there is little room for growth. And men know this. So they marry these girls at very young ages when their opinions on things are not formed, when they don't have a standard yet. Remember when you were 18, the kind of men you liked then. Now, even if you're just 20, the kind of men you like now, when you see those old women, when you see those old men that you used to like then, you'll be like, what was even wrong with me? Now, imagine marrying one of the men then, and you have to live with this choice for the rest of your life. Making a progression from backwards patriarchal ideals to becoming a feminist and a woman who believes in her equality is much easier when you're single. It's much easier when you're younger. Imagine a submissive housewife suddenly waking up to tell the husband she wants to start working, or tell him to help out in the home, or tell him that being a woman does not mean she's the default cook, or tell him she needs her name listed in his property. You just wake up one day after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years after, Imagine if I got married and one day I realized that I didn't want to be married at all. Once you start trying to inculcate these things into your life, your husband will scream that this is not the loving, submissive wife he married, the endless quarrels, the reporting to pastor or family members, this, that. And of course, he would be right. You are no longer the wife he married. You have changed. You now want more. You've evolved. You are growing as human beings ought to. Every human being is supposed to grow. And he will be dissatisfied that you are no longer that same nice girl he married. And just like that, cracks will come into the marriage. And people will say, it's Facebook feminism that ruined that woman's marriage. She started reading posts on Facebook. But that is not the truth. Truth is you grew up, which young girls are supposed to do. But you did not have that liberty of growing up at your own pace. You had to grow up as a wife instead of growing up as a young girl on your own. This is why I will always advocate for women to enjoy their single days. Don't be in a rush to marry. Don't waste it. Learn, read, test yourself, check your standards. so that you understand yourself and know if you want something because it is expected of you or you want it because you really do want it. Because your mindset when you were 21 cannot possibly be the same when you're 24. It's only in marriage that you're expected to be the same when you were 21. That same submissiveness, that same humility, that same everything. No, as a person, you're supposed to be growing. You're supposed to reinvent yourself as you get older. Your standards should be evolving, just like you as a human being are evolving. What you considered amazing last year would probably even disgust you this year. This is why when some of us, we see our old crush, we'll be like, wait till I even see for this man body. Imagine if you had married them now and you wake up one day with somebody that you can't even stand. I am happy that there are some women who married early that are being honest about their journey. Some actually are honest. I remember when Omotala was interviewed, she was like, she doesn't regret getting married at 18. She enjoys it, blah, blah, blah. But she would not want any of her daughters to get married at 18. Even though she did not deconstruct her statement, even though she did not go further to explain, we understand what she means. There are a lot of women who are being honest. Not those that say, it worked for me, it worked for my child. No, it might have worked for you, but it is not ideal. Early marriage is a tool for disempowerment, and that some women make it out lucky. Some women might, be lucky, like people like Omotala now. She got married early, but it did not stop her from her dreams, blah, 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 and blah. When people use her as an example and be like, look at Omotala. Omotala herself doesn't want her children to follow the route Omotala took. If you married early as a woman, do not have that same dream for your daughter. Wait, let them grow up a little. We're talking from 25. At 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, your daughter should not be in any man's house getting married, even if he's a saint, even if he's the best man in the world, even if he was born by Jesus Christ himself. Your daughter should not be in any man's house getting married at that age where she's supposed to be in school, where she's supposed to be an undergraduate, where she's supposed to be serving, where she's supposed to be learning one or two things, trying to get her hand on a career. Let your daughters grow into her own as a woman before she embarks on that journey. And to you young girls, learn to grow into your own as a woman before you embark on marriage. Marriage is for a lifetime. You will always get married. Don't be in a rush. If you find out you're the object of attraction of older men, think well before you leap for joy. If you find out that, at 20, a 34-year-old man wants to marry you, he's serious, he wants to see your family, be very careful. There is a reason why he's insisting on you, and it's not necessarily love. It's not because you're a virgin. It's not because he knows you've only slept with one man. No. Be sure that you are ready emotionally, financially, before you take that leap. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Bitter Feminist Podcast. Follow us at Bitter Feminist Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. You can drop your contributions, questions, or even hot takes on any of our social media platforms. I'm still your host, Ijoma. See you on our next episode. Bye.